Talk about it. Wall Street Journal senior video reporter Shelby Holliday with us, Recon Capital Chief Investment Officer Kevin Kelly, and Democratic strategist Harlan Hill with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Great to see you.
Happy Monday.
Great to be here.
Yeah, you know, watching that video of Hillary Clinton, I think people who were worried about her health are saying, yeah, I knew this, or I told you so. Others are truly scared.
Well, I mean, she's had health concerns since 2011. I mean, people were worried about her health when she was Secretary of State. So it's always been a concern when it's come to Hillary. But now we're coming into the home stretch of the election, so now it's even going to be more in the forefront, especially when things like this happen.
The selling we saw in stocks on Friday, do you think that was partly due to rates, concerns about interest rates moving higher, or was it more about the presidential election? What's your take?
I think it has to do more with rates, and especially when you're seeing companies come out and they're saying the second half of the year is going to be weaker, so it's really compounding because it's hard to have the Fed tighten monetary policy when things aren't getting great.
Once again, it's all about growth. Join us for these stories coming out. We've got a big show this morning. Former Deputy Chief of Staff to President Bush, Karl Rove, is with us. SunTrust CEO Bill Rogers is joining us, Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano, and the CEO of Hologic, Steve McMillan, is with us. Plus, former chess champion, world chess champion Garry Kasparov, turned political activist. He will be with us as well. You don't want to miss a moment of it, so do stay with us. Markets this morning experiencing one of the worst performing days of the year. On Friday, the stock market under pressure. The Dow Industrials losing nearly 400 points on Friday. Futures pointing to a lower opening. It looks like that negative tone continues this morning. All of this coming as Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton had a medical episode while leaving a September 11th ceremony earlier than expected. On yesterday, it was later revealed she has pneumonia. She has canceled a 2-day fundraising trip to California. I want to bring in right now Caitlin Huey-Burns, a national political reporter at Real Clear Politics, and Mercedes Schlapp, a Republican strategist and Fox News contributor. Good to see you, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us. So investors don't like uncertainty. We know that. Mercedes, what impact do you think this pneumonia diagnosis is going to have on the race overall and markets as well?
Well, I think for the most part, it's fascinating to see that the campaign and the Clinton campaign created this sense of a cover-up from a Friday to a Sunday. I think that's where it also creates a bit of uncertainty in general, Maria, because she comes out yesterday, Hillary Clinton, saying, I feel great, yet she has pneumonia. So it does create this uncertainty of what's the real story behind it. Now, we know it's pneumonia at this point, that this is what the doctor that was revealed Friday. Why wasn't the story told on Friday? I think that American people want the honesty, and that's something that the campaign has struggled with for a long time. I think in terms of the markets, you know, obviously the markets, they're watching the race closely. I think this is a matter of saying that they feel that there's a sense of uncertainty or unpredictability coming from both candidates, from a Trump candidacy or a Hillary Clinton candidacy. So I think it's a big challenge for both of these presidential candidates to calm the waters down. But part of it comes with an old saying, which is the truth shall set you free. And I think that's an area where the Clinton campaign did not do very well this time around.
Caitlin, first it was the actual sickness. I mean, people were worried about her health. Now we find out that she was in fact diagnosed with pneumonia on Friday, and the campaign didn't say anything. So that's opening up another can of worms, that the transparency is just not there with the Clinton camp.
Right. It's a really interesting question about why they didn't disclose that she was diagnosed with pneumonia. Her supporters have argued that, you know, she had pneumonia and she still maintained her schedule going to the 9/11 memorial. But it raises questions of why didn't you just say that she had it? I know they're facing scrutiny as it pertains to people raising questions about her health and her competency and her stamina, as Donald Trump puts it. But it is questionable why they didn't release it. Yeah. I think it's incumbent upon both campaigns, quite frankly, to be much more transparent than they have been, especially when it comes to the issue of health. We've seen these two candidates be, I think, the less transparent that we've seen from presidential campaigns. Donald Trump's doctor, of course, with that statement, we know how that went.
Well, you know, color me skeptical, but you know, we've gotten so many different stories from the Clinton campaign as to what is actually going on with her. You know, one, she was fine. It was just a cough. She had allergies. She was overheated. She was dehydrated. She has pneumonia. The story keeps changing, and so I'm not really sure that I buy that this is all that's wrong with her, particularly because a lot of the symptoms that we've seen out of Hillary Clinton, and I'm not a doctor, full disclosure, but a lot of the symptoms that we've seen between the coughing and the lack of stability have been an issue for her since she was at the State Department.
Well, and the big problem for her is voters are now wondering what's really wrong with her. Is this really the truth? Is it something far worse than this? And that, to your point about the markets, is throwing a lot of uncertainty, a lot of concern into this race, you know, with less than 60 days to the presidential election.
So you think that is part of this market sell-off then?
Well,
the uncertainty. I mean,
well, I think compounding in the futures right now.
Markets felt that Hillary was going to win.
Yeah, there was a 70% prediction in the markets. You've even seen Clinton presidency on the cover of Barron's.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
You've seen it come through in the market, especially because of the way she's pulled in the swing states, how she came out of her convention. So there was this real coalescence around the market that she's pretty much going to win. And
she's been very clear, I'm going to continue Obama's strategy. So that continuity, even if it's not good for banking or not good for health care, it's continuity.
It was priced into the markets, correct? Yeah.
Right.
And Mercedes, Harlan Hill here, I had a quick question for you. Do you think that this at all makes her a more sympathetic character? I mean, nobody likes to see an elderly person struggling. And when I saw that video of her struggling to the van, I mean, it tugged at my heartstrings.
It made me think. It's a great point. It made me think of my mother. I mean, and I think we think about our parents saying, oh, you know, first of all, you have to remember that the presidency, even in the White House, when you're running for president and then when you go to the White House, it is grueling. When I worked at the White House, you started at 6 a.m., 5 a.m., you finished at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. Plus the travel, plus, I mean, there is so much intensity in that job. You age in that job as president. And so I think that the health concerns, it's important. We live in a time where back in presidential history, for example, you had FDR, you have Woodrow Wilson, with health issues that they were able to cover up. With a 24-hour news cycle, you can't cover up your health crisis or health issue. It doesn't work anymore in today and age. And so I think that for Hillary Clinton, it's important to be out front and honest. I think if she would have been honest from the beginning, I think we would have been more sympathetic towards the fact that this woman is sick, and guess what? She needs to rest. But you can't play this sense of I feel great, and then all of a sudden come out hours later with a pneumonia story.
Yeah.
I just don't think that works.
And watching her fall on her feet, it was not a good look. I mean, people were very concerned, thinking that it could be a lot worse just because she couldn't stand up getting into her car.
I think the transparency issue is the real key here because, look, everybody gets sick. Candidates get sick. This has been the long campaign. But the question of why they didn't say it earlier, the question of why Donald Trump won't release an extensive health report, why Clinton won't release an updated report, these are big questions for these two candidates who, again, have not been transparent on a lot of different things.
Well, I think you brought up a great point in mentioning Donald Trump, and I think the most important thing came out of yesterday is his Twitter fingers didn't get the best of him. I mean, you saw him. He was completely quiet, which has actually been its more presidential move on his part. He actually kept his hands off. He let the media just report on it. He didn't say anything. He didn't make it about himself, which is interesting because this is the first time we've really seen him do that, especially when it's come to the Clintons.
Which is appropriate. He would have gotten...
Exactly. It's completely appropriate. Yeah, you can see he's taking this seriously.
With how Clinton handled it, you know, I was thinking, how would you come out of an apartment after something like this happens? Why wouldn't you say I was wearing a pantsuit? It was black. It was 80 degrees outside. You know, I had a moment, and her coming out and waving and saying, I feel great, is really just stoking the fears that something bigger is wrong here.
Particularly after what we just saw on video. All right, Caitlin, Huey Burns, Mercedes Schlapp, thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Coming up, a plane crashes at Reno Airport, leaving 3 people dead. We've got the details on what caused this crash next.